It's the big 2026, and even now, there are more games out currently than ever before, and even more games in production than ever before. For some reason, you have absolutely nothing to play. Same, actually. Some things never change, huh? And we, as always, are looking for the new, or maybe old in some situations, because old doesn't mean bad, MMORPG to play and have fun in. And well, let's see if we can find one.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back. Today we're going to talk a bit about MMOs, which, what a topic, right? You know, with the recent implosion of Ashes of Creation, the halting of further development on New World, and last
New World got canned, which is rightfully so, by the way. New World did so many things wrong. If you never played it, honestly, you didn't really lose out on a lot. Ashes of Creation was very hyped. A lot of people, including myself, hope that it's gonna work out. But as development carried on, well, a lot of cracks were beginning to form, to the point where pretty much everyone who was not making money off of the referral program was starting to say, yeah, this looks bad. This looks like it's a scam. And, well, now Ashes of Creation seemingly doesn't really have a chance at recovery.
year's gutting of numerous in-development MMOs, yeah, I wouldn't blame you for having a rather grim outlook on this genre. Although there are still new games on the horizon for us to look forward to, which I covered a few weeks back in another video. That said, it's true that, like, it's kind of been a rough period in the world of new upcoming MMOs. But also, let us not forget all of the existing games, the ones that have maintained player bases and received regular content updates for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years in some cases. Today, that's what I want to talk about, because there's a lot of good out here, and you may very well be missing out on experiencing what could be your next favorite MMO.
A lot of people do not give old MMOs a shot, even though they are amazing. A lot of them are really good.
Simply because it's
Hey, there's a reason a lot of MMOs have seemingly survived for this long.
It's not a brand spanking new MMO, but I don't think you should let that dissuade you. These games are popular and continue to receive updates for a reason. That reason is they're actually good games. I know, shocker, the internet can often convince you that every game out there sucks and the games industry is awful right now. It's not true, however. People are in fact out here enjoying video games in the year of our Lord 2026. It's really happening. I'm really having fun playing games, believe it or not. So yeah, maybe today I can help you discover or even refine an MMO for you to enjoy this year. Let's jump into it. Starting with Guild Wars 2, I did a revisit of this game a couple of months ago and had an
Guild Wars 2 is great. This is my favorite hidden gem that people always look past. It is pretty much the only surviving horizontal progression game. Horizontal progression is, by the way, you get to max level, and everything at max level matters. There's a piece of content that was released when the game came out is still relevant, or maybe slightly less probably relevant if we're being real, than a piece of content that was just released now. That's horizontal progression. It's amazing. If you want to play a game and literally just collect everything, like World of Warcraft achievements and whatnot, this game is definitely something you will absolutely enjoy, okay? And if you like Death Knights and you like the fact that you're a two-handing, sword-wielding class in retail and you attack with range, yeah, World of Warcraft actually stole that from Guild Wars 2 Mesmers. Mesmer's different still, but it is very cool. Guild Wars is something that everyone should try. You can try it for free. You will have to pay at some point if you really like it, though, but honestly, that's a worthwhile sacrifice because I think the game is absolutely good enough.
Absolutely fantastic time playing over the course of a few weeks, leveling up a couple of characters, doing the whole endgame gearing thing, which is pretty straightforward and simple. One of the pros slash cons, depending on your opinion, of this more kind of horizontal progression that Guild Wars offers. For me, I really like it. Every time I come back to the game, I feel like not that far behind. I can just do whatever the new stuff is and not worry about running a new treadmill.
Yeah, you go into Guild Wars, you played 5 years ago, congratulations, the stuff you did 5 years ago still matters to this day. Pretty cool.
one of the advantages that Guild Wars 2 has over the vertical progression MMOs. And yeah, I did check out a bit of endgame in the process as well, doing a few different various endgame group activities. Gotta say, overall, I think this game has just held up incredibly well and still has some of the best form of quest presentation that incentivizes world exploration, because they don't do questing hubs really in Guild Wars 2, you know, where you like go to a town, you talk to a bunch of NPCs, you pick up their quests, you go out, you do the thing, and then you return to them. No, the quest in this game are largely just you exploring the world and doing stuff while...
Now, to be fair, they're not actually quest hubs, but they're not gonna feel like anything else you have ever played before. It's a different experience.
Out there. The one exception to this really would be the main story quest lines of each of the various expansions in the main game, but beyond that, it really is just a game about exploring the world and doing stuff within it, then being rewarded experience, currency, and loot in the process. They've got this whole map completion mechanic that has you wanting to visit every nook and cranny of every zone in the game, clearing out the heart quest, discovering the points of interest, visiting the vistas and getting the nice view, collecting hero points to make your character more powerful, doing jumping puzzles just because they're fun. Just go out, explore, fight things, do stuff, and you get rewarded in the process. And this presentation and the reward structure have made it so satisfying to explore zones.
And the mount system is World of Warcraft's, what's it called? Radiant flying? You know, the flying system that people like, that one. The mounts are kinda a early version of that.
It's literally the main thing that I enjoy doing in this game, even more so than any of the endgame group PvE or PvP activities. I just like leveling characters and clearing the open world maps, genuinely, to the point where I will make new characters of classes that I already have at max level whenever I come back to the game, just because I like playing those classes and I like clearing the world maps. Also, hands down, Guild Wars 2 has some of the best feeling mounts in any MMO I've ever played. It's really hard to describe other than they've got a real physicality, and it really feels like you're riding an animal rather than a vehicle that moves you at X% speed. It's really something if you haven't checked it out. So what is new for the game? Well, last fall they released Visions of Eternity. This came with a brand new story campaign taking you through 2 brand new zones, 9 elite specializations, which are essentially new...
Wait, I missed that one, but I hope it's not water content.
Playstyles, one for every class in the game. They did some updates to a few of the mounts. There was new homestead locations for player housing, new masteries, features, and loot to collect, and then also some graphical updates. And I will say, just in general, with every new big update and expansion that Guild Wars 2 gets, the game keeps looking better and better, kind of supported by a really good art style. And then throughout the course of 2026, as part of this expansion, we're going to be getting some additional story content, a few more new zones, as well as new raids, features, and additional loot. Even just going back and playing the base game, I have a lot of fun every single time, and the fact that it's still getting regular updates I think is fantastic. I just really enjoy this game. I also wanted to add that in my recent revisit, I finally got around to trying out the action combat mode over the game's sort of traditional tab targeting system. I fell in love with it. So what it does is it will lock your mouse to control the character movement instead of being free floating. So as you turn your mouse, your character and the camera move, and then left clicking instead of clicking on an object in the environment, left click becomes your basic attack. Honestly, this is now my preferred way to play. I enjoyed it that much, so really worth giving a shot if you have.
Oh wow, I have not tried this. I guess it's time to come back to Guild Wars. Interesting, nice.
I'm gonna jump back into the game. All right, next up we've got the Elder Scrolls Online. This one gets a lot of hate, but it is legitimately a good and fun MMO that is very...
Oh, I don't know about that one. The last time we talked about the Elder Scrolls Online, it was kind of dying. Because this game suffered a huge thing. It was actually one of the premier MMORPGs, even the player base admitted that, yeah, the developers are nickel and diming them hard. It was still kind of good for the people who wanted an Elder Scrolls experience, but, you know, there was nothing really out, so this was it. But, man, this game has had a lot of problems. First of all, the developers are activists. The whole lore of the Elder Scrolls and Elder Scrolls Online has been turned into, yeah, the gods are literally gay and trans now. And there are literally quest lines that you do, and they have gay dialogue in them. Like, seriously. It is extremely run by activists. And one of the things that happened, we checked this out before. Elder Scrolls Online is a heavily declining game because they had added a system that pretty much removes classes. Every class can take every ability from another class and so on. And this obviously kind of completely destroyed build diversity and made everything extremely cookie cutter, and it wasn't really great. And this made a lot of people quit the game. I haven't checked the numbers if Elder Scrolls Online is back, but I have a feeling it's probably not back.
Very rich with content and lots of stuff to do. Now, yes, somewhat floaty combat is a real issue. It's not just
The combat is just bad. I honestly would not suggest anyone play Elder Scrolls Online. One of the reasons when it came out I didn't play it, even though it didn't have that many red flags. The reason why I didn't play it at the start, many tens of years ago at this point, was because I looked at the game and I was, wait a minute, I have 4 buttons to press? And then there's a swap function that gives me 4 more buttons to press, and there's like a 30-second cooldown until I can do the next rotation? Yeah, that does not sound fun at all for me. Oh, but there's an ultimate. Yeah, I know. There's an ultimate button. That doesn't make it a lot better now, does it? Yeah, that was something that made me not play the game at launch. Zero regrets, by the way. Zero regrets. I think Elder Scrolls Online is something that's slowly dying, and there's not a lot of hope.
just a gripe that you hear from everybody. Like it's a real thing, and I notice it as well. But it's not horrendous. It just basically the combat in ESO falls short of the combat feel in some of the other big games that we're talking about on today's list. But I don't think it's awful. It's just not as good as I would like it to be. Also, it's worth noting this year in particular, they are addressing combat and doing things to try to improve its feel. That aside, though, again, as an MMO, ESO gets a lot right and has brought me hundreds of hours of entertainment through the years as a result. I think especially the core zones, they have a real strong Elder Scrolls vibe that lend themselves to a very immersive, appealing space to spend.
Oh, I'm actually checking currently the Steam DB. I won't share the screen because it is kind of going slightly up. In the past 2 months, there has been a slight increase in players. But still, it's more of a absolute massive decrease since they, did the bad things at the start of the game. So it's still going down tremendously, but there is a slight player bump, right now happening, which I guess is nice.
Time in. It's also one of the very few MMOs that I actually enjoy listening to and engaging with some of the story content. Beyond that, though, I love the overworld exploration. I like going through the delves, the public dungeons, collecting sky shards, all the while exploring some really visually interesting environments and locations. And then there's a whole PvP side of the game. The core of that is Cyrodiil, which gave me some of my most memorable moments when the game first came out. Absolutely this gargantuan zone dedicated entirely to PvP, with 3 factions fighting for territory control in an attempt to capture the capital city at the center. It's very cool stuff. I am personally less into the Zergy parts where you've got huge groups, clumps of players smashing into each other. I really prefer playing kind of on the outskirts and getting into smaller scale skirmishes, which I find very fun. Now, 2026 is a very big year for ESO as it marks a departure from what we've typically seen ZeniMax do over the past several years. So instead of kind of the typical yearly rollout of them having one big chapter and then several smaller dungeon DLCs, all with one specific theme and a whole new location and the typical assortment of content within those spaces, they're now going to be moving into a seasonal model. In the process,
People don't like the seasonal model, though. People complain about it because it means effectively less content overall. Oh, I don't know. I cannot willingly, honestly recommend people play Elder Scrolls Online. A lot of things about it is really bad. Guild Wars, 10 out of 10. Elder Scrolls Online, no. That's an absolute skip from me, boys. World of Warcraft, though, let's see. World of Warcraft is, well, Kind of good. Let's see if it's classic or retail.
Plays out. All right, next up, World of Warcraft. As someone who just
Classic.
recently emerged from a World of Warcraft shaped hole, I'm pretty excited to talk about this game. I think it goes without saying, but look, WoW has been the king for over 2 decades now because it does a lot of stuff very right and in the process appeals to a lot of people. Never has that fact been more true than it is today with the numerous iterations of this game that are available. Of course, you've got retail WoW if you're looking for a more modern feeling game.
I like retail WoW. Okay, I'm gonna say that. I like it. I think pressing buttons is good, and it feels good in that game. There are some things that are like questionable. How the hell does Blizzard not fix them for decades? For example, the fact when you want to go full damage that you need to press, 5 buttons in a row, and it feels super bad because you're just pressing 5 buttons in a row to activate your damage. They should make all of the one shot macro things on the off of the global cooldown rotation, so we can just insta pop everything and go go go. That would be so much better. Pressing buttons fun. Lore is horrible. Now, admittedly, it is not as bad as Elder Scrolls officially being everyone's gay, but World of Warcraft is not too far away. Retail lore is abysmal. It is a joke, honestly, at this point. It does not make sense. There are absolutely massive plot holes pretty much every 5 minutes of lore that you actually inquire, and it doesn't make sense. It's just really, really stupid. Every pretty much woman in World of Warcraft's history that has done everything wrong is just misunderstood at this point, and a victim somehow. Evil doesn't really exist any longer, and good also doesn't exist any longer. Pressing buttons, fun. Actual lore-wise, dead. If you don't know the modern lore, it's better you don't.
With active combat, high mobility, and loads of endgame content catering to everybody, solo players, small groups, and large-scale raids. This is hands down one of, if not the most content-rich and deep MMOs available. Again, there's a reason it's the king of the genre. New expansions come out every couple of years, adding somewhere between 8 and 10 new dungeons, multiple raid tiers, several new zones, loads of story content, and then a host of new features and content with every expansion as well. This game is huge, and it just keeps getting huger. But then also, if you're into the slower pace, back to basics, old school MMO experience, Classic WoW has you covered in its many variations. There's Classic Era, which is base World of Warcraft more or less as it was back in 2004. The Classic Progression servers, which have moved through the expansions. Currently, I believe they're on Mist of Pandaria. Then there's the released a couple years ago Classic.
Oh yeah, mob's still happening. I never got max level there. I was half a bot away from max level.
Classic Anniversary servers, which started as base WoW with some nice quality of life improvements, including dual specialization, and those servers just recently progressed from vanilla into the Burning Crusade. Then you've got Season of Discovery, which was Blizzard's initial stab at something like a Classic Plus, where they've got the base.
Season of Discovery was fun. The big thing that obviously everyone's waiting for is Classic Plus, because it is happening.
Vanilla WoW, and then classes with new abilities, updated loot and gear sets, and even adding entirely new dungeons and raids to the game. And then lastly, you've got Hardcore WoW, which over the past couple of years has been one of my favorite iterations. It is vanilla World of Warcraft, but you only have one life, and those high stakes make the game, in my experience, way more immersive and far more community focused.
True, but everyone who plays hardcore World of Warcraft needs to understand, even if you play perfectly, Blizzard servers at one point are gonna DC and kill you, and that's all she wrote.
With players helping each other out in the world. I've just loved it. Like, I've literally fallen in love with hardcore Classic WoW. It's a ton of fun. Now, what's new for 2026? Well, in the world of retail WoW, we're just a couple of weeks away from the release of the next expansion, Midnight. This is going to come with a new story campaign that takes us through 4 brand new zones. In those zones, you've got the usual assortment of points of interest, dungeons, and raid entrances. Delves, which is a new system that was added with the World Within, which is really cool, kind of solo or small group content where you move move through these rooms in this dungeon-like environment. World Quest PvP events, even open world PvP if you've got that toggled on, world bosses, all the stuff, right? Midnight will also be introducing housing to World of Warcraft, where you can claim a plot, place your home, and decorate it however you like with some fairly insane levels of customization. You should see some of these videos out here with the things that people have done and the amount of variety and kind of fine-tuning and tinkering you have over this stuff. Pretty cool stuff. There's also a new spec with the Devourer Demon Hunter, this void-focused melee-ranged hybrid. All classes got an update with some pruning, removing rotation bloat. Feels a little light in the current pre-patch, and hopefully it will be better as we get more skills from 80 to 90.
Whoa, I haven't even seen this. I stopped playing before this. Interesting. Wow, look at this.
More skills from 80 to 90. They're introducing this prey system where you can track enemies through the world, coming in 3 difficulties, normal, hard, and nightmare. This is also kind of a...
I do want to actually play this because the prey system does seem to be interesting to be at the bare minimum.
Form of increasing the world difficulty with various modifiers. There's a new large-scale PvP battleground, Slayer's Ride, 40 vs 40 players. PvP training grounds where you can learn the ropes of PvP while fighting against AI enemies. They have an updated new player experience with improvements to Exile's Reach and a bunch of UI and add-on updates. I'll say, having spent the past few days jumping back into retail, leveling a new character to 80, this literally takes like a few hours. I'm looking forward to the next expansion. I've not played retail since the Shadowlands update, and so far I've been enjoying what I've seen. I also really like the monk class, playing as the tanky brewmaster, lots of fun. On the classic side of things, as mentioned prior, the anniversary servers recently made that transition into Burning Crusade. Probably seeing a lot of people talking about and playing that right now.
Playing that currently, the leveling is slow. Not even by max level currently. Already missed car and whatnot, but I don't think that's a big deal. Doesn't matter to me. We'll still do it at some point. But, you know, slowly leveling, doing dungeons, grinding that rep, a lot of things. Feels rewarding when you play this, but that's classic World of Warcraft for you. Even though, honestly, Burning Crusade is probably the hardest of classics to get into if you're a new player, I would suggest with just basic default classic World of Warcraft, without Burning Crusades, or, well, Wrath of the Lich King, honestly, one of the two. Burning Crusade is the hardest by far, okay? Tanks not being able to hold aggro, the absolute ludicrous amount of gold that you need to farm in this. And buying gold is currently not even an option because, yeah, that's for rich people currently. Which is insane. And yes, by the way, people talk openly about buying gold. Everyone has done it, except me, obviously. In any case, yeah, that's something that's not even frowned upon nowadays. Admittedly, you know, in some cases it's not necessary. The action house is logging currently, and the tank shortage is already pretty decent. If you have a tank friend who's doing stuff, good for you. If you don't, have fun. If you're playing a rogue or a warrior, good luck being relevant for the rest of your life, effectively, or for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I would not recommend maybe a Burning Crusade for people to begin with. It is a little bit, you know, it's rough. It's rough around the edges, to say the least.
I spent the past 2 months pretty deep in Classic WoW. Initially, this was with Hardcore, and then I started leveling on the Anniversary servers, getting a character ready for Burning Crusade. And I played most of the first week of that update, but I just decided to take a break, mainly because I want to get ready for the upcoming Midnight expansion for retail, but I do intend on returning. And then also, for Classic fans, all signs are pointing to them announcing, if not straight up releasing, Classic Plus later in this year. The idea with this is that they would take the original vanilla WoW that so many people love and expand upon its content without morphing it into retail with all of the countless changes over the past 2 decades that turned it into an entirely different game.
Which is going to be extremely rough, honestly, because we already know how Season Discovery went. In Season of Discovery, by the end, with the Scarlet raid, at the end, you had more power than at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. It's pretty insane. So they need to contain the power creep. But a lot of this stuff that they implemented was great. Dual specialization, the leveling process still matters. Some quests and acquisition of runes was definitely fucking too much, obviously. But all in all, it was a great experience. Season of Discovery was great.
Game. It's a daunting task. They took some shots at it with Season of Discovery. Not everyone loved all of their decisions, but I think there was some good in there. And then we also have numerous private servers, such as Turtle WoW, that showcase how they could do something like a Classic Plus, along with the massively successful example set by Jagex with old school RuneScape, where they took that old game and were able to breathe fresh new life into it. 2026 might be one of the most exciting years for World of Warcraft in a very long time. It is, for at least for me personally, I'll tell you that much. Albion Online I find to be a really great chill MMO where I can just hop in, sit back, relax, gather some resources, craft some gear, do some PvE dungeons. My experience with this game has always been very laid back and enjoyable. It's got a thriving player base thanks to the fact that everybody plays on the same server. In fact, if you visit any of the main cities, there's just a ridiculous number of players running around all the time, jamming up the auction house and banks to the point where you won't even load most of them in. There's also the whole other side of this game that I've not really had too much experience with, and that is the large-scale group-focused hardcore PvP. This is a massive selling point for this game in particular, and for people who are fans of that kind of experience. Boasting massive battles with hundreds of players, it looks really neat. It's just not really my thing. I do, however, quite enjoy the small-scale PvP, as I mentioned in the ESO section. I really like that. To that end, they've got these things in this game, I think they're called corrupt dungeons or something like that, where you go in, you've got these PvE enemies and bosses, you clear through the dungeon, but you can be invaded, or you can invade other players who are also in corrupt dungeons, killing them, letting you take their stuff. And that's the kind of thing I really like in Albion and just in MMOs in general. Now, Albion's 2026 roadmap looks something like this. This month, they will be launching Realm Divided Part 2, which comes with new PvP-focused faction features. Sometime in the spring, the game's going to be getting a visual overhaul along with some performance.
Oh, nice. People want that. Albion is a really neat game. I personally haven't played, but it has a lot. It's just that thing that you can jump into and seemingly have a decent chunk of fun. I have friends that play this, and I mean, they like it. They even have clan there, so it's a nice thing. You can just jump into it, have fun, get died, damn, just move out. That's it. Very simple, very straightforward. And one of the things about Albion is that I really think that top-down MMORPGs need something big. Remember when Lost Ark came out? Lost Ark is one of my favorite games. I have like 3K hours in that thing still. Good times. Do not regret it in the slightest. Absolutely love the game. Never actually even paid to win. It is what it is. And it was absolutely phenomenal. And I think the Lost Ark now has kind of vanished. No one's talking about it. I don't even know what's happening in it. You have, well, what's his name? Khadgod? Something like that. I forgot his name, but the big bad, you're going to defeat him soon. That's kind of neat. But all in all, there's a pounding noise from somewhere. No. In any case, I think there is an opportunity for a new top-down game like Lost Ark to come in and absolutely sweep everything. I think there is so much potential for that, and that's what Albion makes me think about.
Updates. Visual overhaul sounds pretty exciting. I actually want to jump in and check that out. There's also going to be new 1v1 arena for PvP training. The game will be launching on Xbox consoles this year, and at some point in the summer, they're going to be
well, that's pretty neat. If you want to try it, right? Seems good.
That one. All right, now it's been a couple years since I played Black Desert Online, but I still have very fond memories of my time with this. Up until the Blackstone gear grind, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I love just about everything but how they do their gear upgrading system. It's one of those games where you're gonna find a set of gear early on, and then you spend a couple hundred hours leveling that gear up with this difficult to acquire resource. And that leveling up process sometimes has a chance to fail, which you lose the resource, and that kind of sucks. Now that said, it has been a few
this is pretty much Lost Ark by database style
years, and I have heard things have changed for the better on this front, and that the pay-to-win elements in the game are not nearly as oppressive or impactful as they were in the past. I'd like to jump in and see for myself sometime soon if I can. But also,
I don't honestly believe it. I think those elements are still there.
I just would love to play the game again because, again, beyond those complaints, I love just about everything else. Combat is zippy and engaging. I really enjoy exploring the world. It's got beautiful play spaces with many interesting points of interest. There's also great freedom of movement of exploration, with the game having this mantling system where you can pull yourself up onto ledges. And then beyond the third-person action combat gameplay, there's just layers upon layers of other things to do, mini games and side activities that are also entertaining. Life skills like planting crops, milking cows, and cooking. There's an entire system of worker management where you will hire workers, give them homes in the game's various cities, and provide them with jobs that they physically do in real time in the game. You can literally send a worker to go farm crops, and you can physically visit them and watch them do it, and then have those crops carted back to town. It's really cool, very immersive. Black Desert is one of those games that gets updates pretty much every single month. The most recent roadmap I could find pointed to 2026 adding. In January, they did a rework for Star's End with monster zones, group loot, guild improvements, mount growth method changes, mount item remote use, and inland fishing improvements. And then this February, there's the new season of Arena of Solaire with node and conquest war improvements, War of the Roses improvements, and Adania region hunting. And then in March, they've got this Altar of Blood renewal activity, along with a list.
Wow, so they kind of have a lot. Star Wars: The Old Republic, ain't no way.
For sure. I would also like to give a shout out to Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, I've not played this in over a decade. However, I do have fond memories with my time with the game when it first came out back in 2011 to 2013. In fact, if you go through my old content, you're going to see some like 20 plus videos that I made for this game with dungeon walkthroughs, content guides, PvP showcases, just all sorts of stuff. Like, I was properly obsessed with SWTOR. Now, from what I remember,
people love the stories here, and I do have to say the stories, the lore is great.
this game played nearly identically to classic WoW, but with a Star Wars skin and far more story content and cutscenes. I just remember I was playing at a class that felt and had many abilities that were like one-for-one copies of those of the Rogue from World of Warcraft. Although, funny enough, I could also tank dungeons with this class, which was kind of cool. The fact that the game is still alive and kicking, I think, is fantastic. Now, I have heard they've made some changes, not to everyone.
The alive part is a little bit sus.
Liking, specifically, the base game is free, which is really cool, and you can play through your character story content and level up and do all of that stuff for free, which is a sizable amount of content. However, once you reach endgame, that's when they hit you with the paywall, to the point where you might find some purple gear and go to equip it and then realize you've got to cough up some dough in order to do so, which isn't the greatest look, but I guess, again, if the base game is free and there's tens, if not hundreds of hours of entertainment with...
This was the craziest thing about this. They never changed this. The base game is free, the stories are free, and that's the best part of the game. So people didn't pay for the lore content and then just quit the game, which was hilarious. Because I did not enjoy this outside of, you know, the stories. Yeah, it's very classic World of Warcraft-esque. In some ways, it's actually favors, by the way. But still, I don't know if anyone's going to play this.
Them. Final Fantasy XIV, you know, I've tried over the years, but have just never really been able to get into this one.
I'm actually the same. Played Final Fantasy, started playing as like an astrologist or something because I wanted to unlock the rogue. Got to level 10 where I can unlock the rogue, couldn't unlock the rogue, quit game. It is such a hustle. I know this game gets good, but until you get to the point where the game gets good, I might as well be called Unk at that point.
Ultimately, it boils down to the story-centric nature of this game.
And the story is not good at the start. The story gets really good later on, with Yashlot and whatnot. But I mean, it's really bad at the start.
And then there is old school RuneScape, another kind of blind spot in my personal MMO history. I think like way back in the day, I played it briefly. I'm talking back in 2000.
Played it a lot as a kid. It was great.
2001, 2002, but I never stuck with it for very long, nor have I gotten around to revisiting the game. It is, however...
RuneScape 3 is gonna get reworked very soon-ish. And I want to see what happens with that, because I actually like RuneScape 3. I think it's not that bad. Also, something that a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people know that old school RuneScape is the good one and all the content there is good. You know why it's good? Because old school RuneScape just takes the good parts of all RuneScape 3, all the content that succeeded and people liked, and puts it in. That's why it's good, by the way. It is hilarious. In any case, RuneScape, top down, very good, very grindy. Like number go up. Well, congratulations. Here's your game. In any case, that was Force Gaming 10 out of 10. Bye.